We Indians are celebrating 77th Independence Day today with pride and joy. Before the arrival of the British, India was a prosperous land. There were many treasures in this land that no one could count. Then how did India become a poor country? When the Crown took over from the company, from 1861 a clever system was developed under which all of India's financial gold and forex earnings from its fast-rising commodity export surplus with the world, was intercepted and appropriated by Britain. How exactly did the British manage to con us and siphon off our wealth? The British colonial rule in India, spanning nearly 2 centuries, had profound and lasting effects on the economic landscape of the country. While the British Empire saw economic benefits, India experienced a harrowing ordeal of economic exploitation, impoverishment, and structural changes. This article delves into the multifaceted ways in which British colonial rule led to the economic impoverishment of India, drain of wealth. One of the most significant aspects of British colonial exploitation was the drain of wealth from India. The British extracted vast amounts of resources and wealth from India, severely hindering the country's economic development. The imposition of heavy taxes, along with the policies that favored British industries over Indian ones, led to a substantial transfer of wealth from India to Britain. The revenue generated from Indian agriculture and industries often found its way into the coffers of the British Empire, leaving India with limited resources for its own growth. Deindustrialization and handicrafts decline. India was historically known for its advanced handicraft and cottage industries, producing intricate textiles, metalwork, and other goods. However, British policies intentionally crippled these industries. British textiles were imported in bulk, leading to the collapse of indigenous textile production. Millions of weavers and artisans were left unemployed, causing significant economic distress. The deindustrialization of India led to a shift from a self-sufficient economy to one that was heavily reliant on British manufactured goods. Agricultural exploitation. The British exploited Indian agriculture for their own gains. The introduction of cash crops like indigo and opium, alongside taxation policies, prioritized the needs of British industries over the subsistence of Indian farmers. The cultivation of cash crops often came at the expense of food crops, leading to famines and reduced food security. The British also manipulated land ownership, causing a loss of control for many local farmers and a rise in landlessness. Infrastructure development for British interests. While the British introduced railways, roads, and other infrastructure, it was often done to facilitate the transportation of raw materials from India to British factories and ports. This infrastructure development primarily served British economic interests rather than benefiting the Indian population. Additionally, the forced construction of infrastructure projects resulted in the displacement of local communities and disrupted traditional livelihoods. Trade imbalance and colonial monopoly. British colonial policies established a trade imbalance that favored British goods and industries. High tariffs were imposed on Indian goods, while British goods were given free access to Indian markets. The East India Company's monopoly on trade further limited economic opportunities for Indians, as they were forced to trade on disadvantageous terms. This systemic exploitation suppressed the growth of Indian businesses and industries. Currency manipulation and financial drain. The British manipulated the Indian currency system to their advantage. The introduction of the British rupee and the demonetization of local currencies disrupted trade and financial stability. Moreover, the British often siphoned off Indian wealth through unequal exchange rates and excessive taxation, further weakening India's economic base. Impact on human capital. The British colonial policies also had a detrimental impact on India's human capital. Education was primarily aimed at producing clerks and low-level administrators for the British administration rather than fostering innovation and entrepreneurship. This hindered the development of skilled professionals and innovators who could have contributed to India's economic growth. Famines and population loss. British colonial rule saw the occurrence of several devastating famines, including the Bengal famine of 1943. These famines were exacerbated by British policies such as grain export for British markets and inadequate relief efforts. Millions of lives were lost, and the subsequent population decline further affected India's economic potential. The economic impoverishment of India under British colonial rule was a result of deliberate policies and practices that aimed to exploit and extract wealth from the country. The British prioritized their own economic interests at the expense of India's economic well-being. The legacy of this exploitation has had far-reaching effects, shaping India's economic challenges even after gaining independence. Acknowledging this history is crucial for understanding the roots of India's economic struggles and charting a path towards sustainable growth and development.